Please don't share this with anyone because I don't want you to share it with someone who's not be getting bonuses. Very, very, very important because I'll be just sending this to people that are stepping up more than others. Okay.
All right, here we go. It's been almost 3 entire weeks since my first video went live in a multi-part series pertaining to a rising Twitter celebrity named Mario Nafal. But today, I'm very happy to say that those 3 weeks have not been empty. What started as a simple criticism of what seemed to be a dumb rich kid on Twitter became a sparring match that would span over 2 months, include over a dozen confidential sources, and clocked in as one of the largest individual projects or investigations I have ever taken on during my entire career on YouTube. As a result, this video requires a somewhat different approach. First thing, it is regrettably impossible for me to actually include everything that I found, and if I tried, the video would be well in excess of 3 hours long. There are leads emerging or coming in by the day, it seems, with sizable actions taking place in the periphery, actions I cannot speak on for the moment, but at a certain point, even when the story is constantly evolving, day by day, it's time for an update, and this is that update. Now, bear with me here, but this is where I need to provide a great deal of context, not just for first-time watchers or viewers, but also for any further potential sources who see this and wish to come forward. I can fully understand that it's boring. However, I would ask for anyone willing that you trust me when I say the narrative journey here is worth it, and the story itself is highly entertaining. Basic timeline: November 16th, 2022. My first video, in which I heavily criticize what I believe to be an extremely shady entrepreneur, goes live. Sometime after that, roughly 1 week I'd say, Mario responds in video form with a lackluster defense that only serves to increase my overall suspicion, leading to further investigation. November 26th, I respond again, which results in a cease and desist letter from a lawyer named Russell L. Boltwood being sent on behalf of Mario Nafal. Please understand, this is one of the most pathetic, disgustingly incompetent legal documents I've ever seen in my entire life, which caused me to openly respond yet again, dismantling the letter for what it is. That video, as vulgar as it was, had a side effect, and that side effect was a flood of informational sources from both inside and outside IBC. Those sources rapidly began to reach multiple different sectors. I've spoken to ex-clients of IBC, I've spoken to former employees, former labor contractors, executives, and even Mario himself on more than one occasion, which became a recorded interview and will be referenced here and now for part 2. After beginning to explore all of the different pieces of information, I published yet another video, the precursor to this one here and now, which outlined a suspicious investment fund called the DISO IDO Fund. That video is linked down below for those who are at all interested in the subject matter, but having thoroughly explained the timeline and knowing that the sources of non-critical prior information are listed down below and clearly labeled, I'm going to proceed from here on out under the general assumption that everyone knows who Mario Nafal is and also knows that IBC Group is a company he controls. Both of my one-on-one calls with Mario will be posted down below entirely as audio files. In addition, there was an off-record portion of the call both times where I allowed him to chat with me unrecorded. However, I did record my own audio track and also re-enabled the recording on a few separate occasions as Mario began to blatantly contradict himself or disclose impropriety. I did this to prevent him from, at any point for any reason, lying about the context or subject matter of our private talks, and though I don't think it's particularly relevant right now as there was very little contained in those talks that came as a shock or would serve to advance the video in any slightest way, it was a precaution I felt necessary to take. If I need them, I have them. The calls I had with Mario one-on-one were, for the most part, rather pointless. Keep in mind, I'm having to jump through an exceptional number of hoops to preserve source anonymity here, but even without those hurdles, I expect the outcome would have been somewhat similar. I really didn't learn anything of value, for the most part. I didn't get quality responses at all, and pretty much everything I now know has been cross-referenced multiple times to refute what Mario decided to say. In general, I asked for quite a few things, including a list of prior roundtable giveaway winners, which he did provide, a contact sheet of people who did manage to get their money out of a particular investment fund, and a few other things on top of that, but what I really cared about was the pitch deck. Here's the part where I first bring that up in our talk. It's a little long, but it is important for context. This is going to be big for me. This is one of my big ones.
Fuck, man.
Are you currently raising money?
I can't comment on an ongoing fundraise, man.
So you are. The pitch deck that you're sending to people, would you send that to me right now, no delays?
Again, look, I can't comment on an ongoing fundraise. Whether we can send a pitch deck, I'll have to check with the people leading the raise.
This is going to do a lot for my impression of you. If you're willing to send that to me right now, I can swear to keep that confidential. If you'd like, I can sign something. However, I'd like to look at it. And I know that you've shotgun approached this. You've sent this to a whole lot of people.
Yeah, so the fundraise document would not been sent to a whole lot of people. Definitely not. And in terms of sending it to you, I'm happy to be very, if there's a way like we can keep some things confidential, some things are not, depending on what, and then I'm happy to probably be more open about things. Because there's like people's names, I don't want them being mentioned on videos on YouTube, for example.
This is the real thing that I wanted. This was something I had heard about but didn't have details on, and this was the thing I wanted to carefully track, but Mario didn't really seem to care. He didn't check after the call, not in the slightest. He didn't get me the document, and this would later become a bloated corpse of a lie that might stink horribly, but it's a corpse we can easily autopsy. I'll leave that for the proper time, though. Regardless, Mario had offered to get a whole lot of information for me and check back on a number of issues from our first call. However, hilariously enough, the very first thing that Mario did send me was not the pitch deck or any of the other informational requests I had made. It was proof of him granting my demand that he fire his own lawyer. Thrown in for good measure, I guess Mario is now pursuing his own lawyer for a refund on services rendered, because of how bad those services actually were. And now I'll be adding evidence that the lawyer's own client fired them for incompetence to my California State Bar complaint. Lawyers need to learn a goddamn lesson that some cases aren't worth taking, and sometimes they as professionals just don't measure up. That being said, there is no excuse for targeted harassment. Mario decided to claim in an email he sent to the wrong place because he tried to find my contact details that are listed below every single video that I post and failed, that hundreds of DMs harassing him and sending his team threats had appeared because of my first video. For starters, I categorically do not believe that to be the truth. I think he is a liar. But even still, the professional thing to do either way is make it very clear that such behavior is disavowed and intolerable. That is not an acceptable response, even if I firmly believe that Mario is lying through his teeth about it. Anyway, back on task. IBC Group, according to multiple separate sources I have been in contact with, is not a well-managed company. After extensive digging, a picture has formed that Mario Nafal and IBC are actually far more interconnected than it appears. The commingling of assets and impropriety in that regard might become its own video later on in the series, but for our purposes today, the summary is this. Mario Nafal was the founder of IBC and functionally in control of the entire company by way of a proxy named Cone Schilder. Cone has, on many occasions, according to my sources, publicly and privately lamented the fact that he has no actual decision-making power, at least he didn't in the role of CEO, and serving as further evidence of this, upon exiting another CEO position, working for a company called NFT Technologies, Mario simply demoted Cone Schilder to COO, Chief Operating Officer, instantly assuming the role of Chief Executive for himself, which he already functionally controlled, aside from the raw title. Now, this matters a great deal because NFT Technologies is a publicly traded company, which means unlike the radical monopoly money empire of crypto, mistakes that Mario made in that specific arena can have swift consequences. NFT Technologies is a crypto investment firm where Mario Nafal served as CEO, Chief Executive Officer, in the lead-up and process for taking the company public onto the stock market. Let's listen for a moment to how Mario described this company in the lead-up to their IPO.
Hey guys, just letting you know that we expect to go public on the 26th. Apparently Neo just informed us. And I was speaking to Jim, I'm like, hey, I asked the same question again. What do you realistically think it will list at? And they realistically expect it to hit $3 to $5 about a week from listing. Within a week, just FYI.
For clarity here, Mario was simultaneously the person allegedly controlling IBC through a proxy executive, and he was the CEO of NFT Tech. What does it matter? Well, it matters because IBC, on a monthly basis, was invoicing NFT Tech for a host of services and compensation packages that seemed to have, shall we say, issues. Meanwhile, when problems would arise from this agreement at a lower employee level, such as a lack of payment when my sources claim that NFT Tech started to push back against the invoices, Mario would blame NFT Tech for such problems and kind of, in a way, pit the two companies against each other. Now, that is a very strange thing to do when you are tethered to the success of these entities in a professional capacity, but what if I told you, with corroboration from numerous of my now many separate sources, as well as documentation discovered in the NFT Tech quarterly financials, that Mario had actually been forced out of NFT Technologies, simultaneously forfeiting ownership of over 600,000 unvested RSUs, restricted stock units, that he was set to receive. From what I have been told, Mario Nafal was forced out of the company, simply being allowed to claim an amicable parting of the ways, and the reason he got forced out? Well, I'll let you all judge that for yourselves. These right here are the invoices from June and July. Keep in mind, these two invoices are from the 2 months directly before the moment where NFT Tech succeeded in forcing Mario out, specifically unveiled by their PR department on July 7th of 2022. But looking at these will give us a very interesting glimpse inside the financial relationship that these companies had. Again, these are invoices created by a company Mario functionally controls through a proxy, and given to a company he operationally controls through official title. This right here appears to be IBC's official invoice from July of 2022 between IBC Group, owned by Mario Nafal, and NFT Technologies, a publicly traded company he was officially the CEO of until about 1 week later. On the surface, maybe nothing seems wrong here, but after extensive interviews and cross-referencing, there are a couple of things I want to examine much more closely. First things first, these invoices contain large sums of money for specific IBC contractors listed here by name. Having talked extensively with insiders, some of those contractors were not receiving this money, or, and much more importantly, had not even been doing work for NFT Technologies at all, meaning that there was no adequate service or labor from them to create an invoice for. The time tracking inside IBC, the internal time audit software and functionality, is a mess, for starters, but this kind of report piqued my interest because why on earth would a company be creating fake line items for invoicing unless something else was happening? Down the rabbit hole I went, and here's what I found. First of all, IBC Group was routinely invoicing NFT Technology for tens of thousands of dollars in travel, food, and accommodations. According to my sources, this was for Mario himself. In July alone, there were over $30,000 in business travel expenses, much of that billed by Mario himself, but it gets worse. This item here, the young and profiting LinkedIn marketing service for nearly $2,500, was confirmed by one source as a personal service that Mario used to bolster his own LinkedIn social media network just 1 week before his eventual departure from NFT Technologies. Maybe that's defensible, who knows, advancing himself while the company fails, but how about this? NYC Visuals, a video shoot of Mario's keynote speech. That seems a hell of a lot more like personal vanity than anything else, but still, maybe there's a realistic reason. The part where I myself began to struggle is when a source indicated to me that this right here, $6,500 of micro workers to boost the Twitter roundtable space that he runs now, was invoiced, charged, but never spent. According to a very close insider, out of this $6,500 for micro workers, which is basically a service where someone goes to a website and just like clicks 2 things, it's human bots basically, who would be, these human bots would be promoting Mario's completely unrelated media program. An incredibly small amount of money was actually paid and spent on the service itself. I have audio from one of Mario's closest employees confirming that the service was in trouble as a result of performance, and the resulting trajectory never culminated in actual successful marketing, which left a roughly $6,000 hole in the finances.
I need a VA agency because I need thousands and thousands of people to join in case my coworkers doesn't work. I need like, let's say 1,000 people, 1,000 VA to actually join on June 16th from 1 till 2:30 p.m. EST.
What does that mean? It means that Mario Nafal, with what would appear to be shoddy financials and commingled assets, was using IBC to invoice NFT Technologies for services, employee or contractor fees, and personal marketing spends that either did not reach the party they were meant for, never got spent in the specified way, or pertained exclusively to his own personal vanity. NFT Technologies, based on all documents I have seen thus far, appears to have been used as a sort of personal piggy bank, where Mario and his CFO, Tarek, who is also highly suspicious here from what my sources described, would charge the company for tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars in services every single month, oftentimes not dispersing or using the money for what was listed in those invoices. As another related example, buried in the NFT Tech public financials, we also find references to a $145,000 debt payment made out to Mario's own father. It remains unclear why precisely that transaction occurred, but it speaks to the incestuous relationship between IBC, Mario, and NFT Tech, with family members involved, dramatic invoices between companies, and little to no oversight in terms of actual responsibility. This is where we go down a very complicated route. From what I understand, it looks to me like NFT Tech would be investing in projects where that same project then hired IBC for marketing with a similar amount paid, or more. However, since IBC then invoiced NFT Technologies for services rendered, they were effectively getting paid twice, in some circumstances, by both the client and the investor of said client, NFT Tech, for the same services. Projects that IBC chose to partner with allegedly changed their investment structure over time. What started as preferred token allocations entirely during a heavy bull market run became fiat preference over an extended period. 70-30 between tokens and fiat, 50-50, etc., etc., eventually all fiat whenever possible. Under that system, clients would be paying IBC for marketing after an investment was sometimes made into their project by one of the two companies with those very same funds, and then IBC would seem to be double dipping through inflated invoices over at NFT Technologies. Draw your own conclusions here, but I see something unbelievably strange. Furthermore, in numerous deals that we can see from internal documents, IBC would be investing in a project with strict unlock terms, only to then charge that same company even more than the investment itself for some sort of marketing package. Legality aside here, that process itself rapidly devolves from venture capital to service predation, especially if your only goal is to extract as much capital from every single project as you can during a bull market run. In addition, these internal spreadsheets from IBC, given to me by a source, obviously, seem to indicate that there was an enormous discrepancy between what clients paid, what budget could be spent, and what actual marketing was ultimately done. While cross-referencing these specific documents, it became clear that on a few occasions the numbers were incomplete. However, there are still some very interesting things here to examine. Let's start with example number 1, fan fury. Accounting for possible discrepancies, this is a version of the document where I simply highlighted fields and made personal notes. I, of course, have all the general original copies as well. Accounting for possible discrepancies here, I'd like to describe what the document shows. These are the numbers. Originally, Fan Fury was intended to be a near $600,000 deal. These values obviously change over time, and crypto tokens are highly speculative and volatile. It's just funny money, most of it goes to zero anyway. But at the time of deal negotiations, that was the intended amount. IBC claims, frequently I might add, and to nearly every single project they ever approached, that they sell services at cost, meaning what the client pays is what they pay, and they're not really marking things up. But this could not be further from the truth. Of a speculative $600,000 deal, the listed budget for IBC to actually spend is just $176,000. Being as charitable as possible here, that's still a very flexible figure, because crypto is brain-dead idiot money and can go up or down for absolutely no reason at any point in time. Still, during the marketing spend for this project, it would appear that there were some podcasts commissioned, which were then passed on down to the client with a 20% markup, which left basically just one line item here that IBC themselves actually paid for. This document indicates that roughly only $4,000 net was actually spent by IBC for this campaign on a service called Ambassador Group, which is a sort of, a human spam service where people will just go into communities and talk about the product you want them to mention. It's kind of similar to microworkers, but yeah, a lot of the services that IBC uses are very low quality, very spammy, and not good traffic. As an explanation, by the way, here are a few examples of what that looks like since I've obtained access to the actual Ambassador reports through internal avenues. Each one is typically over 100 pages of group DM screenshots, as if that's valuable. It's kind of legitimately baffling to me why anyone would ever spend this much money on a service like that, but still, going back to the original document, it would appear that IBC negotiated an initial deal of nearly $600,000 in speculative value over an extended period of time, offloaded influencer charges on the client yet again with an even higher commission, and then spent next to nothing, with the only real budget shown here amounting to just $4,000 on these ambassadors. This deal had a 9-month vesting period. In theory, it should be fully distributed right now. Selling distributions as they are allocated, flexible prices at the time of sale, and a few other factors combined make it very difficult to track precisely how much money IBC actually made, but somewhere between tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands would seem obvious. Yet the budget they spent on their client, according to the documents I was given, amounts to effectively nothing. Keep in mind, they were set to receive 20% of those tokens immediately, worth roughly $120,000, which can be seen via the allocation period and the initial TGE from multiple different internal documents. Sure, fine, looks bad, yeah, but what about another example? Bot Planet. Launched in March of 2022, March 28th to be exact, the listed vesting schedule here would have presumably been completed by now. Of the initial $200,000 deal, 10% unlocked right at the start, just 60 was slotted for the internal budget. Here's the thing though, after tracking down everything I could find, we can actually dig into this deal a whole lot more. This right here is the SAFT, the SAFT, Signed Agreement for Future Tokens, from the Bot Planet deal. We can see price, allocation, vesting, etc., but we can also see the wallet address for token distributions. This wallet is referred to internally as the F7 wallet, and allegedly serves as a good jumping off point to try and find proof of supposedly commingled assets between Mario and IBC. Not something I've done myself yet extensively, but maybe soon. The F7 wallet, sparing everyone the boring bullshit that comes with blockchain analysis, received just 2 distributions of BotPlanet tokens. The first allocation, 1.4 million tokens, IBC immediately sold all of them in less than 1 hour. For the second one, they didn't even break up the transactions into partials, resulting in BotPlanet confronting IBC with this to say, quote, "We had multiple calls over the month where we kindly asked not to dump tokens in one single transaction as it puts pressure on the budget to keep the token above. Could you verify or deny if this is your transaction? We've checked and it is your address, correct?" End quote. Well, it turns out that this was the IBC wallet after all, and that they did sell in just one transaction. But even better, Mario claims personal ownership of that decision. His explanation, oops, sorry bro, I did record, and actually none of that was off the record because fuck you, go research Rathbun versus United States case law. His explanation is that the project was not on the do not sell list, so he sold it personally while in a meeting, which was a mistake.
The projects that we distribute at the time,
Okay,
there was a list.
You want to regain your honesty card, do. What project is this, and you sold the tokens for this project?
Yeah, so I personally sold the tokens. I can get you the name right after the call because my team would know. I sold the projects, and then the team's like, "Mario, what the fuck? Why do we sell this project?" I'm like, "Guys, it's not on the do not sell list." They're like, "Yeah, Mario, it's actually a client that sent us our tokens." I'm like, "Fuck, buy them back immediately, apologize to the client, offer them extra services." That was a mistake from my end. That was me being reckless. I was in a meeting, we got the tokens, I sold them because I assumed they were a project that we didn't want to hold the tokens for, that we invested in.
Yes, but you didn't buy them back immediately. You waited. You did it in tranches.
I'll have to check, and I'll send you all the transaction hashes, etc., and I'll admit to it. And if they're actually upset after this, I'm happy to do well with them.
Let's get this straight. The CEO is just personally, haphazardly, and randomly deciding to offload millions of tokens from IBC business wallets in a single transaction with a decidedly negative impact on their own clients, tanking the price with zero oversight. That is a serious problem. And he did all this while in a different meeting, apparently? I'm not even sure. Remember what I said about commingling assets? Yeah, I have questions, but I clearly cannot get a straight answer out of Mario. This particular example got so bad that BotPlanet had to just sever the relationship entirely and cut off the allocations. And as far as I know, that level of dissatisfaction is not uncommon in the slightest. I'd also like to make it clear that I now have documents from multiple sources cross-referencing this, such as, but not limited to, FanFury and BotPlanet, these first 2 examples, where I have another invoice for the services rendered by Ambassador Group itself, which perfectly tracks. Still, best to continue on with a third example, which is ETH Tower. This particular deal appears to contain a dual structure of both fiat and tokens, something that IBC allegedly began pushing for as the bear market picked up speed. This is a 6-month vesting period, but again, as per these documents, which in some circumstances might be incomplete, but all cross-references I have at the moment at least point to this page being mostly accurate, only $4,000 of total spending after commission was handed down. Once again, that spending was for the Ambassador Group, which was a standard part of the budget for nearly every single project that IBC partnered with. There's no end to the number of examples where enormous initial allocations, or even hard cash deals, would transform into a minuscule fraction of actual marketing spend, while that marketing spend was almost always directed towards, or majorly focused on, the Ambassador Group service. On top of this, according to internal testimony, IBC had a policy where just 1/4 of the money they received could ever be spent on project marketing, period, which begins to call into question where the interests actually rest. Is this a company to help projects succeed, or a company designed to extract as much money as possible from unsuspecting victims?
We're in such a rare position with this ideal hype and where we're positioned. Such a rare position we're in. We cannot... Missing an IDO or not delivering to an IDO and losing the allocation is a line I never want to cross. And while many of you are getting bonuses for the work you're doing, if the opposite happens, if anyone loses an IDO, or if anyone underdelivers for an IDO and we lose it, or any of these fuck-ups, they'll work against you. Okay?
For nearly every single client where spending radically fell below budget, $4,000, sometimes $4,000 alone by itself, according to these, was paid to Ambassador Group, which is a cheap service for low-quality engagement in whatever industry you choose. But even that service, and please, dear Lord, hear me when I say this, even that service was not paid properly or on time. As per my sources and internal group chat logs I was able to have downloaded for me, the contractor offering this service still has not had their account closed out many months after the fact, and payment has been delayed pending an emergency capital raise, per sources, with the ambassador service company, right, the ones offering that to IBC, still owed, if my digging is correct, roughly $50,000 to date for services already rendered, which was and is still being withheld for months on end, leading to subsequent contractors not being paid and various emergency measures having to be taken because IBC, under Mario Nafal, just isn't paying what they owe. Still not done. A very important through line here is some sort of underlying capital raise. The topic just kept resurfacing over and over and over again. Mario denies the existence of this capital raise, continually stating that there is no pitch deck, or that the pitch deck never had financials, that they are being audited, and that my information is wrong. But this pitch deck absolutely does have financials, and cross-references with this message from mid-December about IBC raising funds and capital to continue investing. Based on that logic, it sounds to me more like they can't invest right now, rather than some sort of actual choice, and they need to find additional investors before they are even able to operate properly again. Let's autopsy this lie right here, right now, and show it for what it is. Remember, I first asked about the pitch deck that I had heard of but did not have in our first recorded conference call, but after that it was given to me by alternative sources. Mario jumped at the chance within minutes to help me destroy his own former lawyer, go figure. But the pitch deck, hour after hour, day after day, nothing. When Mario did acknowledge my kind of disguised but most important request, after I called him out for the fact that a CEO somehow couldn't even obtain a document after almost an entire week, when that document was already available to me through multiple separate sources, he either ignored it or said things like, quote, "Regarding the pitch deck, I can't share due to it containing confidential info. I'm sure you understand. The number of people who have the deck is only the executive team and a very small circle," end quote. Something about that just seems off to me. Mario would go on to say, quote, "Not sure of the pitch deck you have as it's not even final. The audit isn't even done. And not sure how you can have a pitch deck when you need to enter a unique password to see it online," end quote. And once again, after a period of time, quote, "The deck was also completely rewritten by another company. Will ask if I can disclose their name, and that one was never shared other than the 5 people, and the financials were never added, as they are still going through an external audit to ensure everything is kosher." Continuing on, the final pitch deck was not shared with external parties as it is not yet complete. The financials are not done as the audit is ongoing. Regarding previous versions that may have financials, I'll have to check, but the financials would not be accurate as, again, the audit is ongoing, end quote. Here's the problem. If the pitch deck does not contain financials, but simultaneously might contain outdated financials, while an IBC rep is broadcasting a capital raise in mid-December that my sources tell me has been attempted since even before that, and was not shared with external parties as it's not yet complete, how in the actual fuck, Mario, was I given the document by multiple external parties? This is it right here. And this thing, damn, this thing is a work of art. First, the numbers reflected here as per my sources are entirely manipulated. You can interpret numbers however you want in order to paint a certain picture of success, but even more critical is the fact that my contacts have made it clear a portion of this raise was being branded as a solution to paying some of the outstanding balances that IBC owed to contractors and partners. From what I have been told, IBC is using unaudited financials in a speculative capital raise while constantly delaying the audit itself, and even, get this, using a deck that contains multiple high-level executives who no longer work at the company. Martin Penchev, the chief investment officer on this pitch deck, according to LinkedIn at least, hasn't worked there since November, and yet I was receiving this deck from external parties in mid-December. Furthermore, Chet Long and Frank, however you pronounce his last name, who are both high-level executives on the deck, also do not work at IBC anymore in any capacity. And yet, here they are in the pitch deck, which is more like a Frankenstein's monster of, oh god, please, our company is falling apart, who do we even put on this thing, than it is an actual professional document. There could be an extremely small window of time in early December where this document was released to external parties when Frank and Chet Long did work there, but I'll spare everyone the lengthy exposition on this and a whole bunch of documents and disclaimers, and just say that no matter what, IBC has dispersed a pitch deck to external parties where that pitch deck does and did contain financials, and they lied about their executive team inside the same pitch deck. Period. That's just a fact. Is it smart to do this while multiple staff members, contractors, and close partners are owed significant amounts of money? I don't think so, but hey, that's for the audience to determine. Mario has repeatedly stated that only one employee is owed money, but this is also disputed by nearly all of my sources, and he himself contradicted this in our off-record talks, who claim that there is a much longer list of both prior contractors and employees who are owed varying amounts, often between $5,000 and $60,000, but as high as over $200,000 if the information I have been told is accurate. This has gone so far beyond my patience. I made it clear, Mario, that I would be looking into the entire picture and that I would greatly appreciate honesty, candor, and speedy access. What did I get? Slimy manipulations, doublespeak, and what I can really only describe as a toddler-level attempt at talking around issues so that the parents don't get upset. For nearly this entire saga, Mario has been under the impression that I have one main source of information, and his response is to deliberately try and undermine the credibility of the person he thinks that is. He has said that the person is extorting him, when I have found zero evidence to support that. He has claimed that the person is heavily medicated, obviously attempting to muddy the waters on credibility, but the medication the person has been taking is called citalopram, and it does not have mood swing or psychological side effects, as far as I can tell. The only mood-altering effects and serious risks, risk of suicide being the most prominent, are listed for users under 25, which doesn't apply here. Furthermore, if we are going down the road of credibility, there's something else I feel compelled to mention. I have now been given access to a collective of voice memos, where Mario is discussing internal IBC items and, well, for lack of a better term, bragging about things. As an example, here is one where he claims that employees will receive major compensation and bonuses after the bull market ends, which my sources say never materialized.
Now, why I'm sending this voice note, well, it's not to thank you. That's pretty cheesy. I'm sending this voice note to say that once this bull run is over, which could be any day now, once this bull run is over and things quiet down, in 1 week, 2 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, we don't know, probably in about a month, I'm guessing. So once the bull run is over, if you're getting this voice note, you're most likely going to be compensated, almost certainly going to be compensated for the work you're doing. I think everyone getting this voice note, except maybe 1 or 2 people that I think could be doing more, you'll be compensated very heavily. But there'll be the real bonus will be once the hype is over, and I'll review what everyone did. So if you're getting this voice note, work your fucking ass off, 20 days a week, 50 hours a day, because I promise you it will be worth every single minute.
Here's one where he discusses the amount of power he has and references some sort of pecking order. And honestly, adding this in postscript, Mario, there is a pecking order, and you're beneath me on it.
Hey guys, just thought I'd do a quick summary of another update. It's, again, the insanity continues. So I just got a call from someone, his name is David Kovacs. He, very wealthy guy, ran a public company, Be Big, and he sold it now. He's now going to be the chief advisor to the chief advisor to technology and innovation in New York. That means, whenever Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg want to have anything to do with New York, he's the one they speak to. So it's massive power. Plus, he's partnered with the founder of Platinum Records, who's also on the chairman to the Grammy Awards, to launch a 50-50 company. And he's partnering with Mark Zuckerberg and the host of 60 Minutes to launch a media company for the metaverse. Called me because of my position at NFT Tech. He wants to work together. So he called me. Now, we've spoken before, we've met, etc. And Patrick has built a relationship with him. But just to show you the continuous increase in our ability to make money, but the power that we have, the influence that we have, the pecking order. So very humbled, very glad of this development, and thought to update you all. I think these updates is not non-stop, come out of nowhere, and NFT Tech is not even public yet. So let's see when it's public. So I've got a lot of opportunities now we're going to be exploring, but all in all, next year will be very, very interesting. So just thought I'll update you all on this.
There are examples where he name drops enormous organizations or celebrities like Mossad, the head of Mossad, or Zuckerberg, or Pakistani above-board arms dealers of some kind, and even one where he talks about someone in his close proximity fucking or fucking over, not sure which, but doing something untoward with Vladimir Putin's own niece.
So, if for anyone keeping track, he fucked Putin's niece a few times over. She was there at the villa, at the penthouse, the fucking hotel, whatever you want to call it. Already, I've told you about the billionaire I've met and the network and connections I'm building. So, just update you on that. It's gonna be fascinating. See where it goes. It's getting better and better. I'm very cautious about these things, and it's very, very, very skeptical. But like today, I went, saw him, spent some time with him. He's sitting there, both of us working on our own shit. And then just started chatting, So Conor McGregor was there, not seeing them, but he was, chatting to some of his guys. The leader of Mossad, a lot of celebrities. I would Google them. A lot of big names. Tomorrow there's be a Pakistani minister coming. And he deals with weapons above board. Doesn't do anything black market. Just to be clear on that, because I've asked him that. He's very strict on that.
In the world of credibility, some of that just isn't believable to me. But yeah, again, more to go through and much more to find, I assure you of that. I say all this because one of the most foul things a leader can do is harm those that follow him. And from everything I've seen, Mario is not just a serial entrepreneur, he is, in my opinion, a serial liar and scumbag as well. To summarize, because the length of this video could just keep spiraling out of control very easily, enormous invoices that contain tens of thousands of dollars for travel, personal vanity projects, or services that never came to fruition were being invoiced between two companies that Mario controlled, one officially, one unofficially. Tens of thousands of dollars in those invoices never reached their listed destinations. Employees and contractors, including labor partners, appear to have enormous amounts of back pay pending, tied to what seems to be an emergency capital raise, while Mario habitually lies to me time and time again. Meanwhile, there is evidence of projects that absolutely despise IBC as a result of their abysmal service quality and severed the relationship with prejudice. According to my sources, and seemingly corroborated by public financials, Mario did not leave his role at NFT Tech on positive terms, instead leaving in disgrace while he was stripped of his unvested RSUs. Even in the aftermath of my initial videos, IBC began desperately, pathetically spamming out requests to their partnered projects where they hadn't yet received their full allocation or had somehow fallen behind, begging for what amounts to like a few $100s of rug pulled or worthless tokens, indicating to me that the ship is sinking. On a more personal note here, I told Mario with absolute clarity that the past was catching up to him. He did not listen to me. After careful consideration, I will not actually be pursuing his lawyer any further, despite an utter lack of respect for the services he offered, because according to Mario, the buck stops with him. This lawyer may be incompetent and just really abysmal at his job, but a long list of people have been fooled, manipulated, and preyed on by Mario over the past few years, and I find myself gravitating towards legitimate accountability rather than scorched earth vengeance on everyone. One final thing, and with this I appeal directly to you, crypto bros, as well as anyone else in the communities that Mario is now infiltrating. There is a reason he moves from industry to industry, never staying long. Take a look around, grab your junk with a nice firm grip, and start self-fucking moderating your communities now. This guy is now attending the Davos World Economic Forum Summit. Sitting US politicians are going on the Twitter spaces. Elon Musk, Hunter Biden, intelligence officials, business moguls, extremely powerful crypto figures, CEOs, you name it, it's happening. Start to self-moderate, because the fact that you are letting this guy be the public-facing voice of your little world, it's pathetic. Is it the last video? No idea. Every single day, it seems, more information is coming to light, and I wouldn't be surprised if major legal action starts picking up speed behind the scenes. Wink, wink, hint, hint. But for right now, that's it. If you want to support the channel, please check out the links down below, and as always, have a nice night.